Back here on Spotlight, and the semifinals are here in the CFP. Let's take a look. Miami laying 3.5 versus Ole Miss Thursday, 7:30 Eastern. That total 51.5. Then the Oregon Ducks taking on the #1 Indiana Hoosiers. Hoosiers laying 4.5. That game Friday, 7:30 Eastern, with the total at 46.5. And with that, welcome in Danny Kanell with his quarterback rankings for the semifinals, and he is joined by his Cover 3 co-host Chip Patterson here to weigh in as well. So, fellas, let's get right to it. #1, you got Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. No big surprise here. He's the Heisman Trophy winner, Danny.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty obvious. I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner, probably the first pick taken in the NFL draft. We'll see what one of these quarterbacks, there's another big decision in play. But when you look at the intangibles, when you look at the production on the field, he's been pretty close to perfect. And I know some people might come in here and nitpick and say, well, how has he done against the better competition? He's still putting up pretty impressive numbers. And what he's done for this Indiana program helped elevate them to this spot where they've never been before. That's ranked #1 in the country. They've already advanced here to the semifinals. They're the favorite in the college football playoff. Yes, it is part because of the supporting cast and all those players around him. But I think for your money, he is the best quarterback in this playoff field. He's the total package. I've got him at #1.
Yeah, DK, no pushback on Fernando Mendoza at #1, but just to dive deeper on Mendoza, how about the resiliency after the rough start against Alabama, right? You know, he knocks off the little bit of the rust, has a mistake, and then comes right back with just a really strong performance, an efficient performance the rest of the way. You know, for Fernando Mendoza, I think that as we look at the last 2 games that he needs to win to cement himself as an all-timer in college football, as a Heisman Trophy winner and also a national champion, the key is going to be able to ride the ups and downs, because it is true, there weren't a lot of teams that challenged Indiana, but whether it was coming back against Penn State with that big drive, whether it was knocking off a little bit of a rocky start in the Rose Bowl, the thing about Fernando Mendoza, if I'm an Indiana fan, that gives me confidence is that even when not everything is perfect, he is someone who's able to flush it, advance to the next play, and focus on being able to get the Hoosiers into the end zone. So yeah, no pushback with Fernando at #1, and I think what's really exciting is to try and think where this could end up if Indiana can win 2 more games.
All right, so far, Chip agreeing with your list here, Danny. Let's move on to #2. You got Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss. He does pair high-end efficiency as a passer with true dual-threat ability. Why do you like him at #2?
I think he's the most underrated quarterback in here. And all season, I guess it's because he came in as a relative unknown. I mean, it was supposed to be Austin Simmons, who was the starter from day 1 this season for the Ole Miss Rebels. But then when he struggled, banged up a little bit, inserted Trinidad Chambliss into the lineup, and he has been spectacular. I thought he should have gotten more recognition in the Heisman race, but I get not playing a couple games did hurt his statistics, and it is a statistical-driven award, so he didn't light it up out there. But we're talking about somebody who's got 29 total touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. But I think more importantly, why I have him #2, and he might be #1 as far as who is toughest to defend. You mentioned it, Katie. What he does with his legs can be so devastating. And we saw that against Georgia in the second half of that game, where he just kind of took over the game and able to make plays, improvise outside of the pocket. He is super special and super tough to defend. So I've got Trinidad Chambliss at #2. This is college quarterback rankings. Like this playoffs, I think Trinidad Chambliss is one of the toughest to defend in this 4-team field.
Okay, I'll take it if we just say the Georgia game, because that was transcendent. That was insane. I mean, Georgia was getting free rushers at him, and he was just spinning out. He was dodging left and right. Trinidad Chambliss was putting on the kind of performance that, and I understand invoking this name is going to be a little bit polarizing, given everything that's happened since. But when we first saw Johnny Manziel torching Nick Saban's Alabama defenses, that was the kind of elusiveness, that was the kind of game-breaking quarterback play that we saw from Trinidad Chambliss against Kirby Smart, who, of course, had some experience with that Alabama defense as well. So, you know, if he is going to be able to replicate that, by the way, which he would have his opportunities against a Miami pass rush, which is absolutely relentless, if he's able to continue to just tap dance around whoever they meet in the championship game, great defensive fronts from both Indiana and Oregon, you know, there's a lot of conversation about Ole Miss as one of these, like, great storybook runs, the soap opera of everything Lane Kiffin. Pete Golding takes over, and the players just decide we are going to make the most of this season. But I think a huge part of this, and especially given the news that we got here this morning, that Trinidad Chambliss, if he can get a waiver, is committing to not follow Lane Kiffin to LSU, but to stay at Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss could end up being the face of these playoffs. There are some other quarterbacks I think are getting a little disrespected here, DK, but given the recency bias, which I'll allow it because it was awesome. I understand why Chambliss is up here at number 2.
I mean, some high praise there, even Johnny football comparisons, which in his prime was something special to watch. Let's move on to number 3 here, fellas. Dante Moore is Danny's number 3, obviously an elite pocket passer, and my God, is he accurate, Danny?
Yes, he is. And he's cool, calm, collected in the pocket. He seems unflappable, even when he doesn't play his best, which is what Chip and I just saw in person. Because that was, and maybe there's some recency bias here, because when we saw him at the Orange Bowl, it was a little bit sloppy with the ball handling, a little bit loose with the football. He's absolutely going to need to dial it in against this Indiana defense if they want to pull off this upset. But I'll even go back to against the better competition. He did have not his best game against Indiana in the regular season. He did have 2 interceptions against James Madison. So he's been a little bit loose. I think potential-wise, it is off the charts, and he does exactly what the Oregon Ducks ask him to do. I love his mindset. I love his makeup. I love the physical traits that he's got out there. But I do think, and this is selfishly as a college football fan, I think he could really use another year of college football to hone his craft before he goes off to the NFL. Now, the NFL scouts might make this just impossible because he's probably going to be a top 5 pick, whether he's the first quarterback taken or the second. He could challenge Fernando Mendoza, but I still think he needs a little bit of polishing. And if he's going to pull off this upset against Indiana, he'll have to have his best game of the season, which I would not be surprised at all if he does.
Yeah, recency bias, I think, is playing a huge role here, and that's not a bad thing because it was not Dante Moore's best performance. The statistics looked good against Texas Tech. He didn't really hurt them, but he missed the touchdown throw to Malik Benson in the corner early in the first quarter. There were a couple of opportunities in red zone chances where they could have really just stuck the knife in instead of letting the game drag on, put their defense in bad situations. That is the thing that is tough about grading Dante Moore, is that he does show you in snippets some otherworldly, like number 1 overall pick type talent. It just doesn't always come together, either because of the flow of the game, the injuries they've had at wide receiver, or sometimes the conditions, like against Iowa or Wisconsin. So Dante Moore, I think I might slide up to the 2, but I do agree with Danny. What we saw most recently wasn't the best argument for that.
And at number 4, Carson Beck. And yes, he is turnover prone, but there has to be something said about the fact that the Miami Hurricanes are back in business, Danny.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's been exactly what Miami wants him to be, and that's a little bit more the game manager role, especially late in the season as they've gone against these incredibly tough defenses. To go to College Station to secure that win in nasty, ugly conditions, they just didn't want to see turnovers. And then to do it in another impressive performance against Ohio State, arguably the best defense in the entire country. I know the stats don't blow you away with just 138 yards passing, but that's all they have asked him to do. So I think he brings the best veteran experience as far as a body of work. He's been insane as far as being a winner and what he's brought to that program. I do think against Ole Miss, their defense is super good, but I think he's going to have to put up some better numbers, which I do think he will. But Carson Beck, and this is not disrespectful at all, because I've actually got Miami all the way to the championship game in large part because I think Carson Beck is the best game manager left in this field. But unfortunately here in this list, I've got him at the bottom.
So recently, I think Carson Beck has done a fantastic job of taking care of the football. After the loss to SMU, he was sitting there at 13 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Since then, 14-1. To be able to be efficient like that, he's got to have a good read of the defenses. I think he's got more trust in that arm, which, oh yeah, he underwent surgery on his throwing arm in the offseason. He's got a little bit more confidence there. And then more than anything, I think that his communication with Shannon Dawson, the Miami offensive coordinator, they're just doing a great job of making sure that those turnover opportunities are not even there, making the right calls so that he can make the right throws. He ain't, lighting up anybody, as Danny mentioned with the stats, but he is making the right decisions, taking care of the football. That is winning football for the Canes. And, oh, yeah, 15-3 as a starter against ranked opponents. He's got the experience for this kind of stage.
He absolutely does have the experience. I believe he's the oldest quarterback in the field so far. Big thanks to Danny Kanell for his rankings here and for Chip weighing in for us. Here are the odds to win the CFP. The Hoosiers are the favorite at plus 128, followed by the Ducks. Then the Canes, who Danny says could end up in that final game at plus 330. Ole Miss rounding out the top there at plus 570.